Hi, my name is Maddie, and today we're going to dive into the fascinating world of Nikola Tesla. We're going to take a look at and explain some of his popular inventions, like electricity and the Deathray. But we're also going to talk about a lesser known discovery that Tesla made, the scalar waves, which, if used in the right way, can help us to travel through space and time. But before we start, I want to remind you to please subscribe to the channel and press that bell icon so you'll be notified when we upload the next video. So let's begin. Tesla's date of birth is uncertain. The official date is July 10, 1856, but it appears that his birth certificate dates from July 28, 1856. He came from a family of carpenters, but his father had different plans for him, so until the age of 16 he studied to become a priest. But as a child of only 8 years old, he had a gentle, soft personality with a photographic memory that was extraordinary. He could memorize a book after just one reading, a talent inherited from his mother. She had no training, but she was extremely intelligent, and this was passed on to Nikola. Tesla was an avid reader from the time he was a child. After gaining knowledge from his reading, a transformation took place, and he started to have his famous visions. Nowadays, the diagnosis would be some sort of disease, since many people who have this kind of syndrome don't know how to use it, and so they call it a disease or a curse, and all kinds of drugs are given to suppress the problem. But in his case, his mother taught him that his visions were a positive thing. So he would have these intense visions of lights in his head, which he said were a crushing force. He also envisioned shattering lights, and it was then that he entered into a trance-like state. During this state, Tesla could project into those lights various inventions that not only performed in the projection, but after creating the invention would also function in reality. It was the kind of environment that favored creative thoughts, and so his ideas were exposed, developed, materialized, and brought into physical existence. He had a clear and complete picture of what he wanted and no longer needed experiments to discover possible mistakes. At the age of 16, in order to escape the army, he caused himself to be infected with cholera. He went into an environment where there were cholera patients suffering from the disease and subsequently became ill. He did this because he didn't want to kill anyone. His parents thought he would die from it, but then his father, who was suffering deeply with worry, told him that if he was to be healed, he had nothing against Tesla going and studying engineering. It was then that a mysterious woman appeared and prepared an herbal remedy for him, which his parents then gave to him to drink, and he was miraculously healed. Nothing is known about this woman, and she disappeared right after this event. But she exists in the testimonies of the Tesla family. After healing from the disease, Tesla went to study in Graz, Austria. Ironically, he didn't graduate. Although he studied in several faculties throughout his life, he didn't finish any. He did 3 years in Graz and left. In 1882, he arrived in Paris, France, and here he worked at a company owned by Thomas Edison. Tesla has his first important vision. He sees the AC motor in his mind, but unfortunately nobody takes him seriously. In that same year, his mother dies and Tesla has a dream. And in this dream, he sees how his mother dies and under what circumstances. The next day, he finds out that his mother died just like in his dream. So he returns home and spends some time in his native village. While at home, he becomes dangerously sick again, but during his sickness, he feels connection with his mother and his visions begin to grow. After recovering, he returns to Paris, and it is here he meets Charles Batchelor, a collaborator of Edison. He proposes that Tesla travel to the United States and writes a letter of recommendation. In this letter, Batchelor writes, "I know two great men on this planet. One is you," referring to Edison, "and the other one is Tesla." And even though Tesla hadn't discovered or invented anything up until this date, Batchelor had noticed his creative way of thinking. So Tesla decides to accept his proposition and moves to the United States to work for Thomas Edison. Now, while Edison was a repetitive and hard-working guy, Tesla was interesting and brilliant, a genius. He didn't need tests and experiments, but Edison had hired him to perfect some engines that had some very serious problems. In fact, they broke down every 24 hours. And these were actually DC power generators that fed various localities with electricity. Tesla's salary at that time was $18 a week. Edison tells him that if he succeeds in repairing the generators and they don't break down so often, he will then give him $50,000 for each generator. Tesla succeeds. Not only does he repair them, but he changes them completely and the engines no longer have problems. After that, he talks to Edison about the $50,000 promised, but Edison tells him that he doesn't appreciate American humor. Tesla decides to leave Edison's company after several months because of the refusal for a raise in salary from $18 to $25 a week. Although he had solved all the company's problems, Edison didn't give him the promised money and didn't even raise his salary. After leaving Edison, Tesla then creates his own company, but with little success. So in order to be able to support himself, he takes a job with some workers digging ditches. After a while, he's noticed by a great industrialist named Westinghouse, who appreciates Tesla's inventiveness and character. Westinghouse teams up with Tesla, and together they start making the first AC motors. An interesting fact, the first hydroelectric power plant facility at Niagara Falls is powered by Nikola Tesla's engine. This proves the benefit of the alternating current through its transformation and long-distance transport properties. In 1891, Tesla began experimenting with radio waves, and he even did a public demonstration of them. In 1893, he does another public demonstration attended by Guglielmo Marconi. 1 year later, a Russian inventor, Alexander Popov, also manages to experiment with a radio device. However, in 1900, Marconi registers the patent and is then accredited as the inventor of the radio, and a few years later takes the Nobel Prize for his invention. It was not until 1943 that Tesla was credited as the rightful inventor of the radio. Too late, however, because the Nobel Prize had already been granted, and still today most accredit Marconi as the father of this invention. The scalar waves. If we were to list Tesla's most successful inventions, one of them should be that he discovered and subsequently introduced the term scalar wave. A scalar wave is a type of electromagnetic wave that works outside of physics as we know it, and it's one of the most spectacular discoveries. All waves that we learned about in school travel perpendicular to the propagation direction, and they are known as sinusoid. Scalar waves are longitudinal waves that travel, like sound waves, but scalar waves oscillate in line with the propagation direction. A wave that oscillates in line with the propagation direction cannot be represented in a three-dimensional space, and according to Tesla, have a totally different behavior compared to ordinary electromagnetic waves. The waves have a uniform distribution in space, which means they are not attenuating. They can propagate and move freely through any kind of object. And the speed of these waves is higher than the speed of light. This could explain how the electromagnetic field is functioning and also how the human mind operates. However, in today's scientific environment, there is no mention of these scalar waves. Either the secret is kept by the elites, or we simply do not have the necessary knowledge to understand this concept and how these waves work. There are some who say these waves can be used to travel through space and time, and also these waves could play an important role in what Albert Einstein called the theory of everything. Another mind-blowing invention is the famous Tesla coil. It uses a resonant self-oscillating circuit. This circuit manages to raise the voltage to over 1 million volts and produces more energy than it consumes. This self-powered system could be the source of free and clean energy for mankind. Such an invention made public and accessible to man would certainly diminish the intentions of large companies to control and keep the people misinformed, stupid, and dependent on their systems and products. The Tesla coil was funded by J.P. Morgan. However, when he learned the true intentions of Tesla, which was to provide free energy to the population, he stopped the funding immediately of the project, even though Tesla had gone very far. He had succeeded in sending a wave around the Earth, even though all the scientists at the time said that this was impossible to do because the curvature of the planet would eject the waves into space. There is no way that such a thing could be done, they said. Despite all of this, Tesla managed to send such a wave around the Earth. And this idea was the basis for wireless power. Virtually any device that was made with an inverted Tesla coil could capture this wave and turn it into electricity, thus powering a house, a car, and many other electrical machines. Tesla said, "It will not be many generations until our cars can operate using energy from anywhere in the universe." In addition to this, radiation from those waves was not dangerous. On the contrary, it was curative. Some scientists say that with these coils, it's possible to cure cancer and many other incurable diseases. The Tesla coil accesses the amount of energy that is present in the vacuum of space and all around us, a practically infinite energy. The death ray. Nikola Tesla claimed to have invented a death beam, which he called teleforce, in the 1930s. This device was capable of generating an intense, targeted beam of energy that could be used to dispose of enemy warplanes, foreign armies, or anything else that you'd rather didn't exist. The so-called death ray was never constructed because he believed it would become too easy for countries to destroy each other. Tesla proposed that a nation could destroy anything approaching within 200 miles and could provide a wall of power in order to make any country, large or small, impregnable against armies, airplanes, and other means of attack. He later said that efforts had been made to steal his invention, that his room had been entered and his papers looked over, but that the thieves or spies left empty-handed. Tesla's oscillator. In 1898, Tesla claimed he'd built and deployed a small oscillating device that, when attached to his office and operating, nearly shook down the building and everything around it. In other words, the device could allegedly simulate earthquakes. Realizing the potential terrors such a device could create, Tesla said he took a hammer to the oscillator to destroy it, instructing his employees to claim ignorance to the cause of the tremors if asked. Some theorists believe the government continues to use Tesla's research in places like the HAARP facility in Alaska. The flying saucer. In 1911, Nikola Tesla told the New York Herald that he was working on an anti-gravity flying machine. He said, "My flying machine will have neither wings nor propellers. You might see it on the ground and you would never guess that it was a flying machine. Yet it will be able to move at will through the air in any direction with perfect safety, at higher speeds than have yet to be reached, regardless of weather and oblivious of holes in the air or downward currents. It will ascend in such currents if desired, and it can remain absolutely stationary in the air, even in a wind, for a great length of time. Its lifting power will not depend upon any such delicate devices as the bird has to employ, but upon positive mechanical action." Tesla's flying saucer was powered by a free energy system at a time when the fledgling aviation and motor car industries depended on oil and petroleum. Unfortunately, his invention met the same fate as his free energy system. Improved airships. Tesla proposed that electrically powered airships would transport passengers from New York to London in just 3 hours, traveling only 8 miles above the ground. He also imagined that airships might draw their power from the very atmosphere, never needing to stop for refueling. Unmanned airships might even be used to transport passengers to a pre-selected destination, or even for a remote aerial strike. He was never given credit for his invention. Today, however, we have unmanned drones carrying out combat missions, supersonic airplanes that fly at amazing speeds, and space shuttle technology that can circle the Earth in the upper atmosphere. There are so many more spectacular inventions made by Nikola Tesla, and we will describe them in our upcoming videos. So subscribe and stay tuned by hitting that notification bell so you'll be alerted the second we upload a new video. Also, sharing our videos helps us to grow and deliver more quality content to all of you. So thanks, and see you next time.